Hi, this is cartoonist Dan Lietha, and in my career, I spent a lot of it working for the Answers in Genesis ministry, and I saw a lot of things, and I did a lot of things for that ministry. So, I have something to tell you about today. In fact, it deals with dinosaurs, one of my favorite things, and a product that has been developed from some of that. So, I want to tell you the origin story. Now, watch all the way through the video because I'm going to include some little artist secrets and artist insights along the way. All right, so now there's a famous question that's asked from the Answers in Genesis ministry quite a lot, and it's, were you there? And my answer to that question is yes. Yes, I was. This is the origin story behind Ken Ham's 7 F's of dinosaur history. Now, I'm using the word story here, but this is a true story, not a made-up story. So it goes from this early product, and you will see how it turned into this current product right here. So we have to go way back in time to a time before Answers magazine, which many of you may be familiar with. That's the current ministry magazine. But before Answers magazine, there was Creation magazine, and this particular issue is the one where the dinosaur history that we're going to talk about started. It came out in early 2003. Now, the development of the feature that I'm going to be talking about probably happened in mid to late 2002. So that's where we have to go back to for our product. So way back in time, right? So back at that time, Stacia McKeever, actually it was Stacia Byers, she got married, then she became Stacia McKeever, and I were working on a feature called Answers for Kids. And then towards the end of that run that we did that feature for Creation magazine, Steve Cardno, who's an Australian artist, actually he's Ken Ham's first cartoonist and illustrator, so that's a bit of history right there. So Stacia, Steve, and I were working on the Answers for Kids feature for Creation magazine back in 2003. And this is the feature for that particular issue. And again, we were dealing with dinosaurs. Stacia was the writer, so she came up with the written content. This is the section that Steve Cardno illustrated right here. But then you turn, and it was a 4-page feature. So the last 2 pages were mine. And so there it is. This is the 5 real dinosaur ages. Now, if you're familiar with the Answers in Genesis Ministry of the Creation Museum, you'll hear about the 7 C's of history: creation, corruption, catastrophe, confusion, Christ, cross, consummation. That's the 7 C's of history. Well, I thought it would be great to come up with 5 real dinosaur ages because, there's the fictional ones. You got the Triassic and Jurassic and all of that sort of stuff, and who can remember that? And they're fictional anyway. We as Christians need to have something that we can hang our hats on as far as remembering the true history of dinosaurs. And so I picked the letter F because it seemed to have a lot of words in it that worked with this history. So I picked formed, which God created the world in 6 days. Dinosaurs were created on day 6. Everything was very good. Then it turned because of man's sin, and everything became fallen. All the world, all of God's creation, including dinosaurs, fell. Death entered the world because of man's sin. Then the next F, flood. God judged the world, the entire earth, because of man's sin again, flooded it with water, killed off a lot of people and a lot of animals, but some were saved on the ark. And we have the left behinds in our world today because we have a lot of fossils in our world. Then after Noah's flood, the animals and people got off the ark, and they increased in population, but sadly not all of them did, because at some point then they started to decline. Dinosaurs, I believe, were some of those animals that increased and then decreased as time went on. Disease and harsher conditions and people hunting them and that sort of thing limited their growth, and they eventually died out as far as we know. And then they became a story. Grandfather saw this creature when he was a young child, and then the details kind of changed, and they became the dragon legends that we have all over the world today. And then in our current age of found, we have, starting about the 1800s, people started digging up these fossils and then making all kinds of stories attached to them. So that was the original 5 dinosaur ages, the 5 F's of dinosaur history. Well, you can actually zoom ahead now to current day. You can find the collection of answers for kids that Stacia and I produced. I don't think Steve's artwork is included in any of that, and there's a reason for that. But Steve's a great guy, but because of the way the ministry direction went, it was just Stacia and I for this product. All right, so Answers for Kids is something you can find on the website and in the bookstore, and I'll talk about that later. But here's a little artist insight. I produced this cover, and those of you that know me know that I've hidden my wife's name on some of the book covers, and then my wife's name and daughter's name in a particular piece of artwork that I did for the Ark Encounter. And so for this particular product, I thought I would take Stacia's husband's name and hide his name, which is Seth, on the cover of this product. Now, you can't see it on the screen here just because of the resolution of the file and such, but if you actually have this product physically in your hands, you can look at the band on that hat and you can find the word Seth hidden in the cover artwork for this particular product. So there's a challenge for you. Go find it. So if you look into this this collection of Answers for Kids artwork, you can see that there's this dinosaur section, and then you flip the pages here, and there it is. Pretty much the same as it was originally produced for Creation Magazine for the Answers for Kids feature back then. So the 5 F's were used for years and years and years. In fact, it was years later then that at some point they became 7. All right, so when did that happen? Well, actually, back in 2008, Ken Ham contacted me. In fact, I think originally he sent me an email, and it had some suggestions as to how to turn the 5 into 7. Again, he wanted to stick with the 7 C's of history. Let's make these 5 7 to be consistent with the number 7. So he likes 7 ages, 7 steps, 7 outline points for our history outlines. So he sent me 2 words as suggestions for how we could fill in the 7. In fact, here's the overheads, the slides that I had produced for him, and he and the other speakers had been using these for years to talk about the ages of dinosaurs, particularly used for the kids' talks, but also for the adults too, because they benefit from the information that we give to the children as well. So formed, fallen, flood, faded, found were the way that they were in the beginning. Ken sent me these 2 words as suggestions as how to fill them out for 7. Actually, one of the words didn't kind of ring true to me, or it didn't seem the best, so I came up with another alternate word that I thought fit better. And don't get me wrong, I was super flattered and humbled and honored that Ken came to me. He recognized that I was the guy that originated this 7 or the 5 F's anyway, and so instead of just stepping on me and going ahead and turning it into 7, he consulted with me and got my thoughts on it. And so I came up with one other word, and then one of these words then is Ken's. I can't remember which is which. So fearless and fiction were added to the 5 to become 7. And if you zoom ahead now in time and you see Ken Ham, at least at the recording of this video, you use the 7 ages of dinosaurs in his children's talks. In fact, you can find one at least on YouTube if you look for it. And this is where I got these images from. These were slides that I created kind of in the last days of my time at Answers in Genesis. So you can see formed. Now, I designed these slides again, and how did God create the original animals that were on the earth and people? Did they form slowly? Did they come from, smaller versions? No, they were spoken into existence. And so that's what I wanted to reflect with this particular slide. You see the Triceratops, you see some of the structure and stuff that I wanted to give God credit for, the design of all of that creature, not just the outside, but I wanted to reflect that it was created by God's word. He spoke it into existence, and so it's inside a word balloon. So that's why it's put inside that shape. So formed, and then fearless. actually go together because God created everything very good. So he formed it very good. It was very good when they were living then for a time, and everything was fearless. So I've got two dinosaurs put together that usually in a children's book you'll see one attacking the other one because that's how people think they always were. But that's not true, because according to Scripture, if you look in Genesis chapter 1, everything ate plants in the beginning. People and animals. There was no death and killing. No animals were the diet of the other animals at that point. And so I've got both of these creatures eating plants because that's how it was in the beginning. Everything was fearless. Now the next age is sad because man's sin again ruined God's creation, and the fall brought death and suffering and extinction and disease and cancer and all that stuff started to come into the world. So these two formerly friendly dinosaurs, again reflected in that previous slide, became mortal enemies. At least one was the enemy of the other. And so these two slides go together, and I wanted to make a visual point out of the change that happened in the world. So fallen and then flood. The animals, like I said before, a lot of them were killed during the time of the flood. The fossils that we have today, most if not all, are the product of the mud and stuff that was laid down during the time of the flood. And then after everything got off the ark, the faded episode took place. And so the dying out of the dinosaurs and the dragon history, that you don't see that so much reflected in this particular slide. But anyway, then the found era happens, which we are actually in right now. And I wanted the found slide to be a callback to the flood slide. And so this T-Rex that's buried there is being found by these two people now. So again, there's a visual connection there, and that's done on purpose. And so found then actually goes together with the fiction because we're living in the time of both of those. We're still finding dinosaurs, and they're still being fictionalized. So evolution in millions of years, billions of years, millions of years is being added to the dinosaurs as an alternate history to the true history that God has in His Word. So that's the current slide series. And then a little while after Ken had approached me about the 7 idea, in 2009, a book that Ken Ham wrote came out called Dinosaurs for Kids. And if you look inside this book, you'll see that the 7 ages of dinosaurs are the skeleton that he uses to build his case for dinosaurs. That whole presentation in this book is based on the 7 ages of dinosaurs. Now, another little insight to this book that's kind of a nice update since this book was published. Back at that time, Ken Ham had 5 grandchildren, and this book is dedicated to his grandchildren, 5 at the time. Well, one of them, who happened to be named Noah, is now my son-in-law. So there's a fun little update for you. Anyway, so you can take a look here at how this artist, now I'm not the artist for this book, but this is the current artwork in the Dinosaurs for Kids book, and you can kind of compare how the artist treated the 7 ages of dinosaur history with his illustrations and the ideas that he had in presenting the fallen time and the flood and faded and found and fiction. So that's how he presented those. And of course there's a lot more illustration and information that fleshes the idea behind each of those F's out in a more full and complete way. So there's the back of the book, and again, the 7 F's of dinosaur history really turned into something, and I highly recommend this particular book that Ken Ham has produced, and now you know the origin story of the 7 F's of dinosaur history, because like I said, I was there. So again, highly recommend Dinosaur for Kids. You can find them on the Answers in Genesis website. You can buy this from the Creation Museum bookstore. They also have another product called the 7 Ages of Dinosaurs swivel book. It's kind of a little summary that you can carry with you, much easier than the book itself. and you can memorize those 7 ages and get them down, and then you can talk to people about the true history of dinosaurs. And as well, you can find the Answers for Kids Bible curriculum, which, again, my unbiased wink wink nudge nudge opinion is that you should get this great resource, and then you can find Seth's name on the cover. So I'll put some access links to these products in the description, and I am so glad that you listened to my presentation for the true origin of the 7 F's of dinosaur history. I'm cartoonist Dan Lietha. Thanks for watching.